Macmillan wants to help everyone with cancer.
Live life as fully as they can.
Whatever you're going through.
Whoever you are.
Help with money worries and rights at work.
Offer expert information.
Support in hospital.
And at home.
Day and night.
Good boy.
Offering physical, financial and emotional support.
They know I'm a person, not just a patient.
So sneaky.
I'm Dylan's mum.
I'm a dad.
A colleague. A neighbour.
A friend.
Right now in the UK,
there are over 2.5 million people living with cancer.
And that number grows every year.
Gallwn helpu I bod yna I fwy o bobl sy'n byw gyda cancer.
By fundraising,
Volunteering
and campaigning.
So whatever cancer throws your way,
They're right there with you.
Good evening, everyone. Namaste and pranam to everybody joining us today. We are launching the first of our cancer care webinar series with Macmillan Cancer Support. And as the short video showed, there's something like 2.5 million people living in the UK with cancer. And unfortunately, that number is set to increase with a forecast of around 4 million by 2030. So within literally just 10 years, that number is going to grow substantially. Unfortunately, we're all likely to have known somebody who's actually suffering from cancer or has passed away from cancer. And therefore, we felt it very important that we wanted to raise some awareness about the range of cancer support which is available. Unfortunately, in my own sort of family, we've lost two of my cousins just this year alone within the space of 5 months to very aggressive forms of cancer. And we've found it obviously with the COVID restrictions, it's much more difficult to just support someone remotely because you can't obviously visit them in hospital or even at home because of the number of restrictions. And in general, it's been a very hard and tough year for the family. And Macmillan in that respect has been really amazing. And we wanted to do something just to raise awareness, especially within the Asian communities where often cancer is not so openly spoken about or known in terms of the range of supports available. And that's something that we want to try and change. So that's what the focus of today is an introductory webinar to cancer care. We have a number of speakers who will be sharing their experiences of cancer, both from somebody living with cancer, somebody who survived cancer, and somebody who's cared for someone with cancer. And we'll also be hearing from Macmillan this evening to talk a little bit about the work that they do. So without further ado, I just wanted to introduce Pawnee, who will introduce our first speaker of the evening.
Thank you, Ashish. Good evening, everyone. Namaste and pranam. I just wanted to give a bit of background of our first speaker today, and that's Kaushikbhai. So Kaushikbhai is a graduate of electronic engineering and a business consultant specializing in offshore infrastructure development. He is a widowed father of 3 wonderful children. He is a father-in-law of his eldest son's wife and soon to be father-in-law of his daughter's fiance. Kaushikbhai is diagnosed with a rare blood cancer, and nearly despite a decade-long battle with this, Kaushikbhai is active in his work, and which has meant that he's been able to travel to Europe, Dubai, the USA, Mauritius, Kenya, and Singapore. Kaushikbhai is a natural passion for charity work too. He's an active member of the local community for over 4 decades. He has a passion for children's education, which has meant that he has been a school governor of his local school in the London Borough of Brent for nearly 20 years. Kaushikbhai has a deep passion for music and enjoys spending time with his family. Kaushikbhai, thank you so much for joining us today, and would like for you to say a few words about your cancer journey.
Thank you, Bhavani, for that lovely introduction, and good evening, friends, and welcome to this webinar. I'm very grateful to Futureful, and in particular Ashish and Bhavni Patani, for giving me the opportunity to share my story on this very first cancer care webinar. I'm also very grateful to my other co-speakers tonight, especially Dipa Shah and Harsha Shah, as well as Jasmine, plus Hebe and Lourdes from Macmillan Cancer Support, in helping us to commence this new series of webinars. I was first diagnosed with a blood cancer known as essential thrombocythemia in February 2012. I was due to have a double hernia operation at the end of January 2012, and this consultant suddenly canceled the operation at a very short notice due to abnormal white cell and platelet counts. An urgent visit to the GP followed by blood test led my GP to believe that I may have developed leukemia. I'm sure many of you will empathize with the shock and disbelief that I felt hearing the dreaded C word. Generally, I'm a very positive and emotionally strong person, especially as I've lived with a spinal deformity for the most of my adult life. Still, I was certainly not prepared for something like this. And whilst I tried to remain as composed as possible for the sake of my family, internally I felt dejected, as if my whole world was suddenly crumbling. However, by the time my wife and I reached home, I had already mentally resolved to face whatever challenges destiny had waiting for me through the medium of a serious illness. First thing my wife and I did was to have a long chat with our children and explain what I may be facing by way of leukemia, in order to prepare them for the road ahead. My wife may internally have been in shock, but externally, she became my instant rock and assured us that everything will be all right. Whilst our children were shocked, they soon came to terms with the reality and joined my wife in ensuring that I had the most wonderful support in helping me to prepare to deal with a serious and potentially fatal illness. Next, I spoke with my parents and my brother, who is a pharmacist. I also shared the initial diagnosis with a few of my very close personal friends. Their rock-solid support gave me added strength. Having prepared the ground for whatever was awaiting me, I then devoted a lot of time carrying out research, not only on leukemia, but also other types of blood cancers and bone marrow-related conditions. Within 2 weeks of referral from the GP, I received an appointment at the Royal Free Hospital in Hampstead, where I was seen by a very pleasant hematology consultant, who also initially thought I may be developing leukemia. She immediately arranged for me to have an urgent bone marrow biopsy the very next day. I can tell you that this is an extremely painful procedure, but by now, I was mentally and emotionally prepared for the challenges that lay ahead of me. The results of the biopsy revealed that I had a condition called essential thrombocythemia, caused by a genetic malfunction in my bone marrow. In my simple understanding, I believe it could be actually loosely termed as a pre-leukemic condition. Whilst it was a relief to learn that I did not have leukemia, I knew the road ahead for me and my family was going to be tough, since the condition I had was still a type of blood cancer, even though it was not being considered as potentially terminal. The consultant explained what treatment regime would be initiated as she put me on a course of oral chemotherapy, which is basically chemo medication delivered via capsules. She also explained various risk factors, including the fact that this condition could, over the years, progress to leukemia and would require regular monitoring by the hematology team. A Macmillan cancer nurse was actually present at this particular session. The Macmillan nurse then spent patiently time with me and my wife to give us more information about the actual condition, the medication, and most importantly, the support that would be available at all times to both me and my family to come to terms as well as live with this blood cancer and any future adverse developments. Both my wife, who has since passed away very suddenly in February 2014, and I took great comfort in the knowledge that I would be under constant supervision by the team of consultants, junior doctors, and nurses. Over the past 9 years, I have been under constant monitoring and supervision by the hematology team, first at the Royal Free Hospital, and then for the past 6 years in the Macmillan Cancer Building at the University College Hospital in London. Every time I visit the hospital for my appointments, one of the Macmillan nurses actually usually comes over to me to ask how I am doing and always reminds me of the support that is available to me on a 24/7 basis at all times. I'm not looked upon merely as a patient, but as a real person. And it is this human touch which continues to give me additional strength to carry on facing the challenges. In September 2020, a fresh bone marrow biopsy revealed that due to a further malfunction, I have now developed an additional blood cancer called myelodysplastic syndrome or myelodysplasia. In short, it is normally referred to as MDS, which is basically and slowly heading in the direction of leukemia. However, again, it is at a very early stage, and the excellent team of hematology consultants is closely monitoring the situation whilst adjusting the dosage of the same medication regime as my other existing condition. Fortunately, even though I have not had to call upon assistance from the Macmillan Cancer Support nurses so far, I continue to live with the snug comfort that I can call upon them at any time in the event of an urgent need that may arise. I am also comforted by the knowledge that both me and my family have access to support from the various teams at Macmillan Cancer Support organization. I would recommend to anyone with any form of cancer that you should not be afraid to talk about it or share your concerns with your family members, relatives, or even friends. You never know when any one of them could be of help to you. It is, of course, not easy, and many people may not share my view about what is essentially a very private and a personal matter. However, I can tell you that by sharing my story about my cancer, I have found that I am more at ease with myself and not stressed at all. It has helped me to live life with a more positive attitude and to be ready for whatever is in store for me. This is even after losing my dearest wife at a very crucial time and when I needed her the most. I am blessed to have the support of our 2 sons and a daughter, a lovely daughter-in-law, and a great soon-to-be son-in-law. My parents, my sister, my brother and his family, my late wife's sisters and their families as well, as some very close friends and relatives, are also the other pillars of my strength in my journey whilst dealing with the daily trials and tribulations of my blood cancer. Most importantly, please do not be afraid, reluctant, or shy to seek assistance from the various teams at Macmillan Cancer Support. You will be pleasantly surprised how a simple phone call to them could end up lightening your emotional, physical, or mental burden and help you cope with the dreaded C word. I hope that sharing my story with you all today may prove useful to some people, either as cancer patients or as family members and friends of cancer patients. If any of you would like to get in touch with me, please feel free to contact me via the Futureful website. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Kaushikbhai, for sharing your story with us. It's really resonates with some of the experiences that Ashish and I have been through recently. And yeah, you are a very good friend of ours, and we're always here to support you in our capacities, friends and colleagues. So thank you very much. And I'll now pass back to Ashish.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kaushikbhai. Really, thank you for sharing your story. And I don't think we've heard the full story all the time, but one thing that everybody should know that both Barney and myself have been working with Kaushikbhai for quite some time, just helping with community work and charity work, and he never complains of his illness or gets him down. He's always very positive, always ready to help. And that positive attitude is really actually what has brought us here today, because when we have ideas that we want to do something and he goes, okay, let's do it, and it's just remarkable that despite sometimes the pain he goes through, he's got always a very strong positive attitude. And we hope that's something that we do want to share with everybody today, that yes, the C word or cancer is something very daunting to all of us. But having a positive mindset and an attitude will certainly help enormously through whatever journey is to come. So again, thank you very much, Kaushikbhai, for sharing your story. I'm sure we'll be hearing a bit more from you a little later on. But now what I would like to do is introduce a couple of speakers from Macmillan, Hebe and Lourdes. Hebe is somebody that, again, has been very helpful to us. Let me just bring them on the screen. Hebe, again, has been very helpful with anything that we have a query about. She'll be straight away on the ball and come back with answers straight away, and has been helping us since last year when we first started doing a bit of work with Macmillan, just to raise some awareness about the various kind of support which Macmillan has and what they do. So Hebe and Lourdes, thank you so much for spending your evenings here to join us on the webinar. If I can hand over to you, to Hebe, maybe to start off your presentation.
Yes, thank you very much for welcoming us. I'll just be sharing mine and Lourdes' presentation. So if you just bear with me for a second. There we go. So thank you very much for having us this evening. And as Ashish said, my name is Hebe and I am a fundraising manager at Macmillan Cancer Support. My role is to ensure that I help raise awareness of what Macmillan do, and also how we can be there for you, and to support and inspire people like everyone on this call to raise vital funds for people living and affected by cancer. As you saw, hopefully in the video at the beginning, at Macmillan, we give people with cancer everything we've got. If you're diagnosed, your worries are going to become our worries, and we will move mountains to help you live life as fully as you can. And we don't stop there. We're always going out to find better ways to help people with cancer, helping to bring forward the day when everyone will get life-transforming support from day one. We want everyone with cancer to know that they can turn with us from the moment they are diagnosed all the way through their treatment and beyond. And many people don't know that Macmillan can help them. Sometimes a doctor, nurse or healthcare professional involved in their diagnosis isn't aware of the support that we can provide, although thankfully in Kaushik's experience there was a Macmillan nurse there. And this means that people are sometimes missing out on vital support, which is why it's so important that we're all on this webinar tonight. And I really hope that by the end of this hour, you will know the help that's available to anyone affected by cancer, the impact of having this support, and how you can access it. As she shared at the beginning of this webinar, the number of people being diagnosed with cancer is rising, and more people are surviving cancer than ever before. video we showed was a couple years old, and actually today we estimate that around 3 million people are living with cancer in the UK. And as Ashish said, by 2030, this figure is likely to rise to 4 million people, which means that half of us on this call will be getting cancer at some point in our lives. And I'm not sharing these statistics to scare you or to help get you bogged down in the numbers, but just to show you why it is so important that everyone knows the support that is available to them, and why we need to be having these conversations and make sure that we are equipped to talk about cancer. And as cancer affects everyone and anyone, which is why we offer such a wide range of services, everyone that's affected by cancer is going to have a really unique and complex needs that are going to change throughout their cancer journey. And we know all too well that it isn't just the person with cancer that's going to be affected, but it's also their friends, their family, and their loved ones. And receiving a cancer diagnosis, it can turn your life upside down in a single moment. At diagnosis, you might be concerned with what this means or how you're going to break the news to your family. During your treatment, you might worry about how you're going to pay the bills if you're unable to work. And when someone close to you has cancer, you might think that you should ignore your feelings and focus on looking after that person. And it's because of all of this that is why we provide physical, emotional, practical, and financial support. And we do this in so many different ways. We're most well known for our nurses, of which there's about over 4,000 across the country. And I know Kaushik has already told you about how he's been supported by one. We have legions of centres and healthcare professionals up and down the country. But tonight I'm going to focus on telling you about just 2 key services that are the most accessible for everyone that's affected by cancer. As we've heard from Kaushik, a cancer experience can be a stressful and potentially confusing time, but accessing the appropriate support shouldn't have to be. And that's why we have our Macmillan support line. As it's a phone service, it allows people affected by cancer to call just one number to access a wide range of support. Here, you can speak to our cancer information nurse specialists, our work support services, and even welfare rights teams. And our staff are here for everyone affected by cancer. We're offering a listening ear to all that needs it. We can talk about whatever matters to you. We can also offer guidance and help you find the right information and support in your area. We can answer questions about cancer types and treatments, provide practical and financial support to help people live with cancer, or simply just lend that listening ear if someone needs to talk. Our callers are trying to be strong for their family members, and their family members are trying to be strong for their relatives with cancer. So it's really important that people know that they have the support line so that they can talk through their feelings without worrying their family if they wish to. And a lot of relatives, carers, and employees access our support line. One day you could need emotional support, the next financial, or access to counselling, therapies, or specific local support groups. And by being able to reach a supportive and informative voice at the end of the phone is essential. And that is why you can call our support line every day of the week between 8 AM and 8 PM on the number that's on the screen, and we'll be sharing it again later. I should say calls are completely confidential and they are completely free. And on our support line, we have a translation service if anyone that would like to speak to the support line, English is not their first language. And during 2020, obviously, when coronavirus hit, our support line was one of our most important services, and we saw a huge increase in calls from people that were desperately worried about their cancer or their loved one's cancer at a time when they were isolated away from them and their cancer services were being disrupted. So we made sure that we could aid and deal with this increased volume, and we continue to do so today. The other service that I would like to tell you about tonight is our Macmillan website. It's accessible to all those who can access the internet. On our website, people living with cancer can access up-to-date information on emotional well-being, along with information on lots of different topics from finance, work, or even our Macmillan in your area postcode finder that helps you to access the local support network or service nearest to you. And last year, again with COVID, we developed our online coronavirus and cancer digital hub, which has become a key source of trustworthy guidance and advice and support for people affected by cancer and COVID at a time when there were so many additional stresses. On our website, you will also find our online community, which is a carefully moderated space where people can share their experiences of cancer. It's somewhere that people can find emotional and practical support from other people that are facing similar issues and be a part of an understanding community. It's available 24/7 and it's support that people can call on in their own time. People can also get guidance and tips from health professionals, trained volunteers and Macmillan staff who are also active in the community. Importantly, the online community can be used anonymously, in confidence and from the comfort of your own home. So people of all ages and all levels of digital ability use the community. Posts can include anything to do with cancer, from treatments to coping with everyday life to the death of a loved one. It's a very safe place where everyone supports each other, and that enables them to choose how, where and when they connect with others. I think at the current time, we have over 580,000 users on the online community giving support to one another. These quotes here on this slide are from users of our online community, so I will just give you all a moment to have a read of them. I think these quotes help to show not only what a valuable service our online community is, but also really going to bring to light just how important it is to talk about your cancer experience, either that you're going through yourself or that you're supporting a loved one through. And that is exactly why we're here tonight. So I think it's brilliant that we're all here talking about cancer and learning about the support that is available from Macmillan. And I'm now going to invite my colleague Lourdes, who's going to speak to you a little bit more about tackling inequalities in cancer care.
Thank you. Thanks, Hebe. Hi, my name is Lourdes Cole-Clough. Namaste and Jumbo to any of those Indians from Nairobi. If you could go to the next slide, that'd be great. I'm the engagement manager and I'm based in London with a team of engagement leads. The first slide shows you the Mind the Gap report that was launched in 2017, and that was looking at cancer inequalities in London, and that was the first time that statistically it was proven that if you were from a Black or Asian minority ethnic group and you lived in a more deprived area, you would have a poorer cancer journey than your white counterpart in a more affluent area, and that really wasn't okay for Macmillan and wasn't okay for our team. So part of the London engagement team's role is to address some of those issues. What that report found is that actually some of the issues were around medical jargon that people didn't really understand. They'd go and see their doctor and maybe things were explained, but they didn't get it and they were too embarrassed to ask. There were also issues around language. Coming out well enough to do it. Also, something that came up in the report was around emotional support and people finding it really difficult from Black and Asian minority ethnic groups to access good emotional support in a timely way that was really tailored towards their cultural needs and sensitivities. So there were some recommendations from this report, and if we could go to the next slide, that'd be great, Hebe. And one of those was to set up the London Cancer Community, and I was brought into post to head that, and it's still going. So if there's anyone on this call who'd like to join London Cancer Community, you'd be more than welcome. It's not a volunteering role. You're not owned by Macmillan. You would be people like Ashish, who are community entrepreneurs, community leaders who are aspiring to change things within their community. And we'd engage and connect in with you, use your energy and harness that to provide some a cancer vocabulary and support for you. Another one of the recommendations was that we provide personal personalised cancer care, and that means finding out what matters to you, and that's really important in Macmillan's strategy for the next year. And we do that through things like electronic holistic needs assessments. So if you've had a diagnosis of cancer, you can have a holistic needs assessment. You can ask your GP or your health professional, your CNS, to conduct that with you. You can download it from a website, but you need a care plan with it, and you need a health professional to ensure that it looks connected in with cancer, and all that's really, really important for Macmillan as well, to support people through that. Can I have the next slide? So in the last year, our engagement team went out and worked with different community groups to collect stories using ethnography. Now, ethnography is a study in people's own environments, and we trained people from the Chinese community, the Asian Women's Group in West London, the Selby Trust in Haringey, and the BME Forum in Croydon. So it was a big group. We trained about 80 people, and we trained them to collect stories from their own communities. So, for example, Chinese hopes from Cantonese speakers that we could otherwise not ever connect with from the people within our team, and those stories came back, and we themed them up. So if I could have the next slide, that'd be great. So we produced an ethnography report, and it was included in the Good Practice Resource Guide for Primary Care, and the same issues came up from the Mind the Gap report, issues around navigating the healthcare system and needing emotional support. But what we found was Macmillan was rarely mentioned. People, if they knew about Macmillan, they didn't feel it was a place for them, and in fact people found that emotional support from their own groups and their own connections, and what they wanted to do is work within their own cultural groups for that emotional support, and we are happy to support people to do that as well and help you to do that. Again, language barriers was an issue, knowledge about treatment and issues in primary care and secondary care, and booking appointments, and GPs sometimes not even knowing that somebody had a cancer diagnosis. Next slide, please. And after that report, we had it, as we all know, the pandemic, the Black Lives Matter movement, a real increase in health inequalities, and what was there before became so much more exacerbated. And the engagement team wanted to address that and work within that landscape. So could I have the next slide? What we did is we set up some workshops in December, and they were poetry workshops where we wanted participants to build a community campaigning toolkit. So a campaigning toolkit to address some of the issues I've talked about earlier, navigating that healthcare system, dealing with clinical jargon, issues around primary care. So now 15 people came on a regular basis. This was advert, are you poorly served by your postcode or ethnicity? And some people within Macmillan were a bit shocked at that and were like, oh, we can't send this out to NHS people. But it was we were tackling the status quo and trying to address issues there. So it was a difficult project to get off the ground, but we managed to do it. If I could have the next slide. And what we did is we had free virtual poetry workshops, which will be continuing in the next couple of months. So if any of you want to join, that'd be great. We've got a campaigning toolkit, which will be on the website in July. And we work with our medical team as well to co-produce this toolkit. And what it does is it will help people write letters to their GPs or health professionals if they need to, access community organisers if they want more support. And it's just a way of dealing with power and the inequality of power, really. And a lot of people on our workshops also went to speak with cabinet ministers and were part of our Forgotten Sea campaign. So they had access to senior advisors and our policy team as well. And I'm hoping if some of you are interested in joining the next cohort and workshop, that would be really great for us. If I could have the next slide. So this is the toolkit. It's called Raising Your Voice, and it will be on in July, and so we'll keep you posted and hopefully connecting with anyone interested in that. And we also work with the online community with that as well. And the next slide, please. Thank you. And I just put these quotes up here just so we're talking about culture today and different cultures and how they cope with cancer. And these are just some of the quotes. My extended family, they hear cancer and they write you off. And this is from a Muslim woman diagnosed by cancer. And I know sometimes people feel with that diagnosis, it could affect marriages in the family. And can sometimes be a lot of secrecy around that. And, you know, as we said at the beginning of the workshop, it's really important to share and be able to do that if you feel comfortable to do it, and it really does relieve a lot of that anxiety. We're working with Black men as well. This is one quote: "It's a taboo subject for men. Very few will talk about it to you as I am now." And so we've gone and worked with some barbershops, for example, to address some of those issues. Another Black woman who joined our workshops saying, "I couldn't understand what the doctor was saying. I couldn't take it in." She was a qualified counsellor, but she didn't feel confident enough to address some issues with her doctor. But now she's applied for a grant through us, and she's looking to set up an advocacy service to support people at their appointments with their doctors to ask questions if they want to ask questions. So just to let you know, we also support people through grants and money. If you've got a good idea, if you want to address some of those issues that you face, that you think there's no service for me, I'd like to set something up. We can help you to do that. And the last slide, I think. So this is us in our barbershop. So we go out to people, like we've come out to the webinar today. We don't expect people to come into Macmillan and you know, naturally address us. So this is about going and tailoring our services to different cultures and communities. And we'd be happy to do that with any communities that you've got out there. Anyone on this call who'd like to connect in with me later, I think we're going to share our emails. All right, that's it. Thank you. Yeah, please do get in touch.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And we will stop sharing our screen and go back with Ashish.
Hebe, Lourdes, thank you so much for that overview of what Macmillan does and how it can support. We have one question on the chat I just wanted to take now because I thought it's quite appropriate. Does Macmillan services available anywhere in the country or just London?
There's Macmillan service up and down the country and in Northern Ireland, and I know that Ashish will be sharing a link that lets you, it's the Macmillan Near You link that I mentioned in my presentation. You can put your postcode in and it will tell you where your nearest information centre or support group is. But we also have healthcare professionals in many of the NHS trusts up and down the country, and services like the support line or the online community that I mentioned are available for anyone. And a lot of the work that Lourdes has mentioned that we're mainly focusing on in London, if you're not based in London, please do still get in touch with us because there's lots of brilliant work like that happening all over.
Yeah, there are engagement teams in every geography as well. So there'll be the equivalent of me in other geographies. So if you do live out of London, get in touch as well, and I'll put you in touch with the right person.
Okay, thank you. So we will be taking some questions maybe towards the end. So if you do have a question, please put it on the chat function on Zoom, or if you're watching on YouTube, then on the YouTube chat, and we'll try and take some questions a little later on. Now, obviously, please do remember that today's purpose is to look at more of a support for cancer. It's not a medical webinar. So if there are any medical questions, I believe the Macmillan support line will be able to help and would probably be the best call for anyone. It's a free support line, and I think the number is on screen as I speak, 0808 808 4 zeros. It's open, I believe, 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So please do give them a call if you need to. So again, thank you, Hebe, Lourdes, for your presentation. I'm going to now can go back to Paoni to introduce our next speaker.
Great, thank you. Thank you both for the information that you've provided. Yeah, so our next speaker is Dipa Ben, and she's a qualified IT profession and lives in Potter's Bar with her husband and 2 daughters. Dipa Ben became a cancer carer in 2008 when her beloved dad was diagnosed with ureter cancer. Experiencing the cancer journey with her dad and gaining knowledge about the cancer care over time has instilled a strong passion in Dipa Ben to help people through their journey with cancer. Dipa Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. Please do tell us more about your experience.
Hello, good evening, everyone, and namaste. My name is Dipa. I live in Potter's Bar. My journey with cancer care started in 2008 when my dad was first diagnosed with an aggressive 4th stage of ureter cancer. He underwent major surgeries which lasted around 8 hours, where he had 1 kidney removed, his ureter, and part of his bladder. He went through 42 sessions of chemotherapy and 56 sessions of radiotherapy and various other procedures over the years. At the time of his diagnosis, I didn't know much about cancer, cancer treatment, or cancer care. However, through my journey caring for my dad, I researched and learned about different treatments for him through the oncologist and other research mechanisms and ways to improve his physical activity. I also did extensive amounts of research on ways to completely change and improve his diet in ways that I could keep him feeling energized and healthy throughout his treatment process. Unfortunately, after taking all these precautions, my dad's cancer got best of him and spread even further to his bladder, lungs, lymph nodes, and his stomach. The journey at times was very challenging, always feeling like I was in the unknown and not knowing what outcomes to expect. I was always afraid of losing him, and it was really tough. However, his constant positivity and the support from my close family and friends was key and gave me a lot of strength to be able to help him fight through this. As my dad lived in Australia, the only way I could have been able to fully support him was to move there for periods of time so that I could be with him. I would sometimes be out there for 6 months at a time. However, over the 9 years of my dad's illness, I was probably in Australia for about 5 years altogether. This meant leaving my family behind in London with my youngest daughter, 3 years old, which was extremely hard. On top of this, my mum's health also took a turn for the worst, and we ended up losing her in 2014. This was not only extremely hard for the whole family, but really affected my dad a lot. He lived with his cancer for 9 years and sadly passed away in 2017. I wish during this journey we had known about Macmillan, as this would have extremely been helpful and beneficial, not only for my dad, but for the entire family as well. I definitely believe raising awareness on the support Macmillan has to offer will show people who are going through tough times with cancer that they are not alone and they are supported. Macmillan, as they said, doesn't just support the cancer patient, but the family as well. During his last few days, my dad asked me what I would do with my time now that he would no longer be here. I said I wanted to help and support people who are going through a similar journey to him. I want people to know that I'm always here to help and to be able to support them in any way possible. And please get in touch with me through Futureful website. Anyone who has been through a similar journey, anyone that's been through a similar experience will know that this journey is tough, but it is so important to stay positive and know there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Losing a loved one is never easy, but their presence always remains with you. Finally, I would like to say a big thank you to Ashish, Bhavni, who have put tremendous amount of work into doing tonight's event. Big thank you to Kaushikbhai, Hebe, for giving me this opportunity to come and share my story on this Futureful platform. Also, a big thank you to you all who have come and joined us tonight and to support us all. Please continue supporting everyone on Futureful and the future events. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dipa for sharing your story with us. And I'm sure wherever your father is, he'll be really happy that you were able to get the strength to share this and want to continue to pursue your support for others out there too. So thanks again. And yeah, really happy that you joined us today. Thank you. Now I'll pass it back to Ashish.
Thank you, and thank you, Dipa, for sharing that. I know it's been tough speaking about it so much, especially how close you were to your father, and thank you again really for sharing. And I mean, we've received some comments here on screen. I won't mention who it's come from, just from a confidentiality point of view. It just says their husband passed away from kidney cancer, and no one told us about Macmillan or the support they could have accessed, we could have accessed, and he passed away 13 months ago. So again, I think it just reiterates the point of what we're trying to do today, is that just to raise that awareness within the Asian community for the amount of support which is really available freely to anybody from Macmillan. And I think there are various different groups which Macmillan supports, like I believe the Asian Women's Cancer Group as well. And there's a lot of local help which you can reach out to or just to speak to somebody on the support line. Hebe, can I just correct that the support line is not just for medical queries, but if it's for anybody who wants to maybe just speak to somebody, and whether they are a cancer patient or somebody from the wider family, they can access that.
Yes, that is very true. And I'd like to say, for the person who had the experience that you shared, I want to add that we never stop being there for people that are affected by cancer. And whether you lost a loved one 10 years ago or 10 weeks ago, you can always access our support line if you feel like, and as you said, Ashish, our support line is there for when you don't want to Google something and you're a bit worried about what Google will say, and you're gonna ask a professional it, but they're also there if you just need someone to speak to. You've had a very hard day, you're starting to be nervous about things, you've seen something and it's reminded you of your loved one. They are always there to give that emotional support. So that there is the financial and the practical support, but I think one of the key parts of the support line, as you say, is that emotional support that anyone can access and have someone lend a listening ear to how you're feeling.
Thank you, Hebe, for that. And I just actually want to share my screen very quickly. Just bear with me for 1 second. So again, we will put these details on both the Zoom chat as well as the YouTube link. But again, if anybody does want the support available, there's a whole range of ways that they can access it. The macmillan.org.uk website is the primary website for getting all the cancer information and support. We've also set up a Facebook group called Cancer Care Support. So if you want to join that and just confidentially just share with other people who are going through similar experiences, you can do so. It's a private Facebook group, so it's not open to the public. And one thing which we haven't really touched upon so far, that obviously today's purpose is to raise awareness, but obviously if anybody would like to make a small donation towards Macmillan, please do so, because every little amount can help and finance the support which Macmillan provides. So there's a link for that as well, uk.virginmoneygiving.com/cancer care. And I believe we also got a QR code on our screen backdrop, which also, if you're watching from a laptop or a computer, you can scan the QR code and it'll take you to the link straight away. So the number of ways you can access the information here. So what we would like to do now is bring on our next speaker. So I'm just going to put back Barony to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Ashish. And next on is Harsha Shah. And Harsha is from London and lives in a joint family with her husband, mother-in-law, and 2 grown-up children. And she has lots of passions and hobbies. Some of them are walking, reading, going to the theatre, jigsaw puzzles, and she likes to volunteer where possible. And in 2017, Harsha was diagnosed with breast cancer. So Harsha, thank you for joining us today. Now, please to share with us your journey.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Namaste. I hope you had a good day and are now enjoying the break in the weather. I certainly am enjoying the cool weather, basically. I'd like to start by thanking Futureful, Macmillan Cancer Support, and Asian Women's Cancer Group for inviting me to be a part of this panel. My name is Harsha Shah, and I'm 61 years old, having retired 2 years ago. I've been working since the age of 18 and have worked in various environments, from a pharmaceutical lab to an accounting department for the same company. From there, I moved to an accounts department in an independent school. A part of my job was to send out fee bills, which happened to be in time for Easter or Christmas. So I was jovially referred to as the evil Mrs. Shah, who sends out bills as presents, basically, because it was just in time. My time now is spent caring for my family, including my elderly mother-in-law, gardening, volunteering, meeting friends, a very important part, and doing yoga, walking, practicing mindfulness, and other activities. These activities keep me busy, and they make me feel good. I am a very positive person, and spreading positivity is my motto, to the annoyance of some people, because I always look at the glass being half full, not half empty. I have supported members of my family, some close friends, during their struggles with cancer. Sadly, some of these struggles were terminal struggles, which include my mum, my sister-in-law, and a very close friend. I myself am a cancer survivor, having been diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer in 2017 after a routine mammogram. Having supported my sister through a similar experience, I knew roughly what to expect. So right from the beginning, my sister was my support, but also she had highlighted Macmillan right from the word go, to say, talk to Macmillan, basically. This early diagnosis, in my case, meant that I was just having a mastectomy and I did not require any further treatments. Now, having a mastectomy is nothing light, but in my case, for me, it was my only treatment. And I did not require any chemotherapy or radiation therapy. I have now been in remission for 3 years. During my journey, a Macmillan nurse was allocated to me from the point of meeting my consultant right from the word go. And the nurse came and spoke to me saying, we're there for support 7 days a week. And it was emphasized that the support was available for the whole family, not just for myself. So I was reassured right from that point that there was somebody else to support me and not just my family. Just after my mastectomy, I developed a condition known as atrial fibrillation, which affects my heart. So from having been a fairly healthy person and not having any medication, I was now having to take several tablets a day. My positivity, although it was still there, it still launched me into an emotional roller coaster. It was very hard. I was having good days, not so good days, and unfortunately, what I don't like, but I have to say, bad days. My family was under a lot of stress. We were all coming to terms emotionally and trying to understand my diagnosis and treatment. It was a very difficult time for all of us, but through help from Macmillan and Asian Women's Cancer Group, I was able to reassure the family, and also they were able to seek help from other areas. It was a struggle, juggling work, ensuring dependents who I cared for, including my now 96-year-old mother-in-law, were looked after properly. Ensuring my mother-in-law's needs were looked after was especially difficult, given that she is an elderly Asian woman who understandably is often unwilling to accept help from male members or strangers, male members of the family or strangers. At the same time, I was attempting to come to terms with a debilitating condition and the side effects of multiple medication that I now had to take. Tiredness, fatigue, muscle cramps, adapting to a changed diet because my diet had to change totally. I couldn't take spicy foods. I couldn't, eat a lot of foods that I ate before. I couldn't cope with. It just did not agree with me. So I was a changed diet, hot flushes, and mild depression were just some of the side effects I was trying to cope with. This triggered a role reversal in my family, which was very difficult to accept. I went from being a main caregiver in my family, supporting my husband, children, and mother-in-law, to being the one who was receiving support from all of them. I found it very hard to be sitting almost complacently while my daughter, son, and husband were working. I was constantly questioning myself. Where was my place? What was my role? Was I still needed? Was I now redundant? All these questions were lurking in my mind while I was still coming to terms with my condition. I was also coming across taboos in the community, which was frustrating to say the least. However, with a positive attitude and much perseverance, I overcame this and was able to speak about my cancer journey with many people. During my journey, I was able to go to several organizations for support and information, including Macmillan Cancer Support Asian Women's Cancer Group, and Maggie's, and many of my family and friends. I attended many meetings where people who were in the same situation as me exchanged ideas, recipes, experiences, and feelings. Being with people who were undergoing a similar journey was massively reassuring and helpful, and brought my positivity back, because I wasn't the only one going through this. There were other people going through this, basically. Having support was a very important part of the journey. This was not just for myself, but for my family and friends too. It was very important for my family to be able to voice their concerns and have access to information and guidance. My family and friends were a great support, and my main support and my rock was my daughter, my sister, and my sister-in-law, who provided me a lot of support. So it is very important to get support and to seek advice from professionals, from friends. Do not be afraid. I would like to finish by highlighting the importance of attending medical checks on a regular basis, no matter how you feel. I would also like to emphasize the importance of seeking help at the earliest opportunity when you notice or feel something is wrong. It's your body, and you know when something is wrong. So always, always seek advice. And remember, having cancer is nothing to be ashamed of, and nothing to be ashamed about. So please break the taboo of silence and let us feel free to talk about it. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I hope you found it informative. I'm here to support anybody who requires support. Please feel free to talk to me via Future4 or Asian Women's Cancer Group. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ashish and Bhavni and Macmillan, for having me on the panel.
Thank you so much, Harsha, for sharing your story with us and hearing everybody's stories tonight. The importance of the support from family, friends, and Macmillan and the wider society. There are still a few taboos around, but hopefully our series, starting from today and going on, will shed some light and offer people the information and the support that they need to kind of get on and deal with their difficulties and challenges. So thank you again for tonight.
Thank you so much, Shwen, for sharing us your story. Clearly, it's been difficult, emotional story, but thank you so much for the courage of sharing it and offering the help to speak to anybody who might be in a similar situation. And I think that's the most important thing when we're going through these things. I mean, we found, especially over the last year with COVID lockdown, there's not much way that we couldn't sort of visit our cousin in the hospital or at home or anything. There'll be, lockdown measures and stuff like that. A lot of it is just a phone call, or, there's a remote kind of way to be in touch with somebody. So being able to talk to somebody and reaching out and knowing that somebody's there is definitely the most important thing you can offer. And thank you so much for doing so and sharing your experience. So what we would like now to do is I'd like to introduce Jasmine to come on and say a little few words from the perspective of the local pharmacy. So Jasmine, if I can bring you on screen. And I will share the slides when you're ready.
That's fine, Ashish, please, yeah. Okay, let me know, Ashish, when you're ready to share. Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone, and namaste. Just want to say thank you to Ashish and Bhavni for asking me to speak at this event. Just want to start off by saying a huge thank you to Kaushikbhai and Dipa Bhavi and Harsha Ben as well for sharing your stories. Really moving. And before I start off about pharmacy, if I can just summarize what key messages I've taken away from their brave stories. I hope that's okay, Ashish. So what I've learned, the main thing today is, should you be diagnosed with cancer or you have a loved one who has been diagnosed with cancer, you are not alone. Communication is the key. Do reach out. Don't be afraid to talk about the condition or to ask for help, because it's all about sharing, and you'll find sources of support who will really help you through your journey. I hope that's a fair summary of some of the key messages I've taken away today. So just introduce myself. My name is Jasmine Shah. I am a pharmacist by profession, and I work at the National Pharmacy Association, and I'm also a medication safety officer. So I come from the healthcare sector. As Ashish has mentioned this evening about losing cousins, and just to mention, Ashish is my sibling, my younger brother, and Bhavni is my sister-in-law. And we have lost 2 cousins this year, which has been really heartbreaking, especially through the COVID crisis. But through the last few years, we've also lost other members of our family, and most notably, 2 of my mom's brothers have both passed away from cancer at very young ages. They were both 44 years old at the time and had really young families. So through the years, we've seen how cancer has affected members of our family, and it's really difficult. So with my professional hat on today, I just thought I would share with you some of the ways in which your local community pharmacist and the local pharmacy teams are helped to support you. Just want to mention this briefly because we are hoping to cover this in a bit more detail at a future webinar. So some of the things have been touched upon already by our brave panelists today. So some of the key things in which way your pharmacy teams can help you is, first of all, helping you to live healthier lifestyles, supporting you with providing you with right information. Sorry, apologies, somebody said the sound is not very good. Is that better? Hello? Ashish, is that improved a little bit?
I think it's a bit muffled, but carry on.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know. I've plugged in the line on the maximum volume here. So what I would like to say is that the pharmacy teams are here to support individuals, families, and carers. One of the key things is also finding out information about the NHS screening programs. So Harsha mentioned that one of the key things was a routine mammogram picked up the early stage of cancer, which allowed for prompt treatment. So the importance of actually attending the screening programs cannot be understated because it's vitally important. And the NHS runs a number of key cancer screening programs. Additionally, on top of that, when someone is diagnosed with cancer and is on their cancer journey, as has been mentioned this evening, you will end up having a lot of medication, then you might suffer from some certain side effects, etc. And your pharmacy teams can help you in giving you more information and helping you to manage those side effects. And it's right the way through the journey because unfortunately, in some cases, the patients do reach the end of life and they can provide you with palliative care as well. Ashish, can we have the next one, please, if you don't mind? So there's also the clinical element to it, and that is focused on medication. Our panelists this evening have mentioned, obviously, that there are many medicines that need to be taken at times, and the effects of side effects can be have a huge impact on daily lives. So one of the key things is talking to your local pharmacist and asking them for help and support or further information about your medications and interactions with, if you're taking multiple medicines, if you're experiencing side effects, how they can be minimized by taking the medication at the right time, perhaps with or without food, etc. And just generally advising you on how to manage even some of the physical symptoms. This is a very brief overview, and we're hoping to cover this in more detail in a different webinar. Ashish, next one, please. I think one of the other things to mention are some of the key signs and symptoms of cancer, because most of us go through life quite on our own journeys and not really think too much, but any changes to your body, and you know your body really well, please be careful and notice, especially if you notice any of these particular signs here in the red box. Any coughing, chest pain, or breathlessness, which is lasting for a few weeks or anything more than 3 weeks, please do visit your GP or ask a pharmacist for advice. Any change in bowel habits, any unexplained bloating, a lump in the breast in particular, any unexplained weight loss where you can't explain why you're losing weight, definitely seek help. Any type of unexplained bleeding, mold changes, if you're suffering from pain constantly without explanation, if you're feeling extremely tired or having swallowing difficulties, heartburn, indigestion, night sweats, or even if you have a mouth ulcer for anything more than 3 weeks, then please see your dentist in that case. Obviously, this is a very short list of some of the key signs and symptoms. You can find further information on the Macmillan website about the key signs and symptoms of cancer, as well as on the nhs.uk website. Now, this is a whistle-stop tour through all of this. We're happy to include more signposting and support in the meantime if you need further help and advice afterwards to some of the key pieces and sources of information that are available. But the main thing is, I would say again, if there's anything troubling you or bothering you at all about your health, you can always ask your pharmacist in the first instance. You can also seek help from your general practitioner or your dentist, depending on what type of symptoms you're experiencing. The key thing is, if you notice something unusual and is worrying you, don't hold back. Please reach out and seek help. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jasmine. Thanks, Jasmine, for that quick overview of how the local pharmacy can help. And as Jasmine mentioned, we are going to try and do a bit more of an in-depth webinar a little later on in the year, which will focus more on how local pharmacies can support your cancer care, and as well as signpost, obviously, a lot more information. I do have one question on the chat, Jasmine, if you want to take it now, maybe. Would pharmacists know where to signpost patients and their families for holistic cancer care?
Hi, Ashish. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, a lot of pharmacists these days are also more and more aware that there is more to cancer care than just medication. And yes, pharmacists should be able to signpost to other services and support available in your local areas. Please do ask them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And so we're coming nearly to the end of our webinar, but again, there's a few questions on the chat line which we will take. And if you have any questions, please do put it on the chat. We will try and cover them. Just before we do that, I am just going to share my screen again. So just bear with me 1 second, please. Okay, so hopefully my screen is showing online. So again, just a quick reminder of the Macmillan Cancer Support line number. It's 0808 808 40s, and it's open 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. If anybody does have need, please do call them. and they'll be able to help anybody, cancer patients or their family members as well. Also, at this point, I just wanted to say a big thank you to so many different individuals and organizations. I won't be able to name everybody, but we've got a list of all the different organizations on screen who have been helping to just simply promote the message about cancer care and helping to raise awareness, particularly within the Asian communities. So a big thank you to everyone who has been helping us to raise some important awareness. And I think, as we've had comments previously on the chat, saying that some people saying that it would have been good to have known this kind of support is available. And I think that that's the key, really. If you only message you take away is that there is support available, and please do reach out, and there is help available. So again, a big thank you to all the different organizations who have helped in raising this awareness, and there's so many individuals behind the scene. Again, I'm not unfortunately going to have the time to name everybody, but we do really appreciate all the help and support everybody's provided us. I also wanted to just put up our contact details on screen again. If anybody does have any questions or wanted to get in touch, a number of ways you can do that. If you wanted to get in touch with ourselves, myself or Bounty or any of the speakers, please do give us an email, ashish@futureful.org, or there's more information available, including copies of all the slides from today's webinar, which Macmillan have provided, as well as Jasmine has provided. That's available on our website, www.futureful.org/cancer care. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got a private Facebook group that we've started. It's a Facebook group /groups/cancer care support. Anybody can join that and find help and support, and just somebody else to talk to who may be going through a similar journey as yourself. So please feel free to join that. Then there's obviously the Macmillan website, macmillan.org.uk/cancer-information-and-support, or you can just go to macmillan.org.uk and use the various links on there. There is information available in foreign languages, including Gujarati and Hindi. Again, we'll put the link up on the chat and the YouTube chat if anybody does require information in a local language, which may help anybody much more versatile in those languages. And finally, as mentioned before as well, if anybody would like to make a small donation towards Macmillan, we've got a Virgin Money giving page. It's uk.virginmoneygiving.com/cancer care. And I think thank you so much for bearing with us today. I know we've gone slightly over, but at this point, I just want to bring everybody onto the panel so that we can just take a few questions and before we wrap up. Again, I've got a question. I'll take the easy question. I'm sorry, everybody. Is the webinar available on YouTube afterwards? Somebody's asking. So yes, there is going to be a recording of the webinar available on YouTube. There'll be also a link from our website along with the slides from this evening's webinar. So yes, definitely it's going to be available. Okay, I'm going to take a few questions, and then whoever wants to answer, please just unmute yourself and please do. So we've got a question here. Is there an Asian cancer support group in Birmingham?
Shall I take that? You can go onto Macmillan's website, support groups, and put in postcode, and it will take you to the support groups in the area. Otherwise, I've put in my email details into the chat, and you're welcome to email me. And there is a big Asian community we connect with Macmillan, and so I can find out if there's a specific Asian group for you. So email me too. You're welcome to do that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I think one thing we might do is everybody who's logged in via Zoom, we'll probably email you a copy of everything from today, so you'll have all the contact details if anybody needs to reach someone. Okay, I had a few more questions. Somebody's asking, can you please clarify that Macmillan nurse allocated when a patient is diagnosed with cancer is a clinical nurse specialist based on the hospital who is funded by Macmillan? Hebe or Lourdes, if you want to take that?
Yes, I'm very happy to answer that. And yes, I can confirm that a Macmillan nurse, they're a specialist cancer nurse. They've got experience and qualifications in cancer care, and they work in a lot of different areas in cancer care, but many of them work and they're employed in NHS hospitals, hospices, and in the community. Most of them are clinical nurse specialists. And like I say, most of them are based at the hospital. And yes, they will be a post that has been funded by Macmillan, but they work within the NHS or other organisations going forward.
Could I just add to that, though? You might not always be allocated a Macmillan nurse, so go to the website and try and get support. It is a bit of a lottery postcode.
Yes, and I think you can always ask your doctor if there is a nurse specialist that you can talk to, and that's why things like Lourdes said, like the support line and the website are brilliant, because depending on where you are and the type of cancer you have, there isn't always a clinical nurse specialist that specifies in that.
Okay, thank you. We had another question, which it just says, what about overseas? So I'm assuming that sort of reads as, would you be able to access Macmillan services from abroad?
I can try to take that one again. And our Macmillan website is available to be accessed overseas, and we do actually see quite a lot of people overseas accessing it, and you can call our support line. However, I just want to explain that there may be fees if you're calling from abroad, because it is a free phone line in the United Kingdom, and whilst our employees on the support line will do their best to help you, they probably and won't be able to specify on healthcare systems in different overseas countries. And our professionals, such as the nurses and the centres we've talked about, are unfortunately United Kingdom based. So that you can still access our support, and we'll do all we can to help you, but just want to explain that there are certain things that aren't available overseas.
Okay, thank you. And I think we had another one actually just come through on WhatsApp here. So somebody's asking in terms of financial support. I think that was briefly mentioned in your presentation, signposted. So is there any financial support or workplace support which Macmillan provides, or is it just medical support?
Shall I give that an answer, Lourdes? And if you've got more to add, you can do. Yes, you're right, Ashish, that financial support is one of the pillars of support that we provide. And as I have said tonight, our support line and our website is probably the best places to go to initially access that support. And when it comes to finances, it could be anything from energy advice on helping you understand how to pay your bills, or welfare rights to understand what benefits you're entitled to, or financial guidance about mortgages or pensions. And as well as this advice that's available, a key part of what we do at Macmillan is we also provide Macmillan grants, which are small, around £350 payments that are means tested to help people affected by cancer deal with the extra costs that life can bring. So sometimes it's to help them the travel costs to hospital, or if their energy bills have gone up, or because of their treatment, their weight has been very affected and they need new clothing. And actually, we're really, really passionate about the financial support we provide. And in London alone last year, we gave over £1 million out to over 3,000 people. So if you feel that you need financial support and that you might apply, this financial support would work and be applicable to you. Again, I'm going to be a stuck record, but on our website, if you type in Macmillan grants, there'll be a lot more information about how you can try to access that support. And I don't want to go on too long, but also on our information, you can on our website and our support line, there is support available about your rights at work and how to return to work maybe after being off with cancer. So that is also support that we provide. And I know that Futureful are planning, hopefully, to hold another webinar in the future that focuses predominantly on financial and work support.
Yes, thank you, Hebe. So yes, absolutely. As we mentioned earlier, that this was just an introductory to cancer care and these various different aspects, obviously. So there are plans already in place that we're going to be covering other topics such as financial and workplace support, again, both for cancer patients as well as their family members, as well as what we've mentioned. Jasmine's also going to be helping us with how local pharmacies can help with cancer support. So there are going to be specific topics that we will be covering in future webinars, because with all of these things, there's so much in depth you can go into, there's so much information available. So what we want to try and do is sort of signpost it in the easiest possible manner, and especially if some information is required in languages other than English, then we will again try and do that. On that point, I do want to bring in Kaushikbhai one last time before we close today, just to mention a few things. He's going to do his best to speak in, I think, Gujarati and Hindi, cover multiple languages in one go. If Kaushikbhai, you want to come on screen?
Yes, thank you, Ashish. I think I'll just speak in Gujarati and Hindi. I was going to try Punjabi, but I don't think we have time, and I'll probably get lost along the way. થેન્ક યુ ભાઈઓ અને બહેનો, મારા સૌ મિત્રો, આજે તમે આ વેબિનાર જોયું. અમારી કોશિશ હતી કે આપની સમક્ષ એક નવી મુહિમ અમે જે ચાલુ કરી છે, અભિયાન, કે લોકોની સમક્ષ કેન્સર વિશે વાત કરવાની. અને આજના વેબિનારમાં અમે રજૂઆત કરી છે કે હું પોતે કેન્સરનો દર્દી છું. દીપા, જેણે પોતાના પિતાને જે સેવા કરી હતી તેની બારામાં વાત કરી. હર્ષાબેન પોતે એક કેન્સર પેશન્ટ હતા અને તેમણે પોતાની વાત કરી. આખી વાર્તા કરવાનો તો અત્યારે ટાઈમ નથી, પરંતુ અમે આગામી મહિનાની અંદર, જે આવતા 3-4 મહિના છે, એની અંદર એક ગુજરાતીનું વેબિનાર કરશું, જેની અંદર આપની સમક્ષ ફરીવાર હું કદાચ મારી રજૂઆત કરવાની કોશિશ કરીશ, જો આશીષભાઈ મોકો આપશે તો. કારણ કે અને ખાસ કરીને આપ સૌને એક જ સંદેશો પહોંચાડવાનો છે કે કેન્સરથી ગભરાવાની કોઈ જરૂર નથી. અમારો આજનો મુદ્દો એ જ હતો. કેન્સર વિશે કોઈએ ગભરાવાની જરૂર નથી, પોતાના દિલની અંદર રાખવાની જરૂર નથી. અગર તમે કેન્સર પેશન્ટ હો, તમે કેન્સરના દર્દીઓ, તો પ્લીઝ તમારી વાત તમે તમારા સગા સંબંધીઓને કોઈને પણ વાત કરો. પણ સૌથી અગત્યનું છે કે મેકમિલન કેન્સર સપોર્ટ એક એવી સંસ્થા છે કે જેના એક ફોન કરવાથી તમારા કદાચ તમારા મનની ઘણી બધી ઉલઝનો દૂર થઈ જશે. તો જે નંબર આપ્યો હતો 0808-808-0000, 0808-808-0000, આ નંબર ઉપર તમે ફોન કરશો તો તમારા કદાચ તમારી ઘણી બધી મૂંઝવણો દૂર થઈ જશે. કારણ કે આ સંસ્થાનો હેતુ છે કે કેન્સરના દર્દીઓને જ નહીં, પરંતુ તેમના પરિવારોને, તેમના મિત્રજનોને, જેને પણ કેન્સર વિશે જાણવું હોય, કેવી રીતે પોતાના અંગત સ્વજનોની મદદ કરવી, કેવી રીતે આ એક બીમારીથી ઝૂમવું, તો એના માટે જે કોશિશ છે એ લોકો તમને મદદ કરી શકશે. તો પ્લીઝ આપ સૌને ખાસ વિનંતી છે કે આપને ક્યારેય પણ શરમાવાની જરૂર નથી કે મારે કેન્સર વિશે કેવી રીતે હું કોઈને પૂછી શકું કે વાત કરી શકું. હું મારા પોતાની જ અંગત વાત કરું. જેવું મેં મારા મિત્રોને, મારા પરિવારના લોકોને જ્યારે વાત કરી, તો જે મને અંગત શાંતિ મળી હતી, એ શાંતિ તમારા આ દર્દની સામે ઝૂમવા માટે પણ એક સરસ પુરવાર થઈ શકે એમ છે. તો પ્લીઝ આપ જરૂરથી મેકમિલન કેન્સર સપોર્ટનો સહયોગ લેશો. વધારે આવતા જે વેબિનાર આપણે કરશું ત્યારે હું તમને ગુજરાતીમાં સમજાવીશ. આ તો આશીષભાઈએ મને લાસ્ટ મિનિટે કીધું કે ગુજરાતીમાં વાત કરો, નહીતર આના માટે પ્રિપેર પણ કરવું પડે. સો પ્લીઝ मेरे सारे मित्रों, जो भी आज हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, जो हिंदी भाषित है, अगर पता नहीं है कि कितने लोग हिंदी भाषित है, मेरे कई मित्रगण हैं जो हिंदी भाषित है। तो हमारी एक यही मुहिम है ये वेबिनार शुरू करने से कि आप में कैंसर के दर्द के लिए जागरूकता लानी, आप में एक विश्वास पैदा करना कि कैंसर जैसी बीमारी से घबराना नहीं है। आपके स्वजन, आपके मित्र, आपके कोई भी जो जिसके साथ आप ये आपके दर्द की बात बांट सकते हैं तो बिना झिझक बांटिए, क्योंकि इससे आपका दर्द हल्का हो सकेगा, आपके मन को शांति मिलेगी। मुझे खुद, जैसे मैंने ये बीमारी के बारे में अपने परिवार के साथ तो मैंने ये बात बांटी थी, लेकिन जैसे ही मैंने अपने मित्रगण और कई और लोगों के साथ बांटी, तो मुझे अंदर से ये महसूस हुआ कि ऐसे भी लोग हैं जो मुझे कोई भी समय पर मदद कर सकते हैं। और मदद का मतलब ये नहीं है कि आपको आर्थिक, मतलब फाइनेंशियल या कोई फिजिकल हेल्प करे। अगर आपके साथ बैठ के कोई दो बात करे, आपके साथ आपका दर्द जो बांट सके ना, वो भी आपके लिए, आपकी बीमारी के सामने झूमने के लिए अच्छा पुरवार होगा। दूसरा, आप मैकमिलन कैंसर सपोर्ट जो संस्था है, जो आपके लिए बनी है, आपके परिवारजनों के लिए बनी है, वो एक पेशेंट को पेशेंट के तरीके से नहीं देखती है, लेकिन एक व्यक्तिगत, एक ह्यूमन बीइंग के तरीके से देखती है। तो उनका सपोर्ट लेने से भी मत घबराइए। आप बिना झिझक उनको, जो फोन नंबर है 0808 808 0000 0808 808 0000 पे फोन करिए। और आपको पता चलेगा कि एक फोन करने से आपके मन को कितनी शांति मिलेगी। आपके कई भी सवाल जो होंगे वो कितने तुरंत उसको आपको जवाब अगर मिल सकता है तो उसी वक्त मिल जाएगा, या तो प्रयास होगा कि आपको तुरंत जवाब मिले और आपकी जो भी विटंबनाएं हैं वो कुछ अंश तक दूर हो सके। तो प्लीज मेहरबानी करके मेरा यही संदेश है कि आप ये बीमारी, मैं तो झूम रहा हूँ पिछले 10 साल से एक बीमारी के सामने पर इससे कोई डरने की बात नहीं है। जो ईश्वर ने हमारे भाग्य में लिखा है वो तो होना ही है। तो क्यों हम डरें, क्यों हम घबराए मत। कैंसर भी एक सी वर्ड ही है, कैंसर, CANCER, कोई बात नहीं, हम भी लड़ लेंगे उसके साथ। और बस स्वस्थ रहिए आप सब। गुजराती में पण कहूं छू, बधा स्वस्थ रहो, सुरक्षित रहो। एंड आप सबनो आभार, आप सबको शुक्रिया, आपने मुझे सुना, थैंक यू, आप તમે મને સાંભળ્યો. And until next time, thank you and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Kaushikbhai. I know I did put you a bit on the spot there, but thank you so much for sharing a little bit in Gujarati and Hindi. And again, as we said, we will be doing a bit more full-length webinar in Hindi and Gujarati a little later on, again, because again, it will help hopefully to raise awareness to often individuals who may not readily be using English as their main language. So thank you for that. I want to now sort of come to a close. It's been a long evening, and thank you everybody who's been sharing their stories. So I just want to bring on Bhavani to do a vote of thanks at the end.
Thank you everybody for joining us tonight, and for everybody that has helped us in the background. A big thank you to Ashish for all your support and courage and encouragement, and all our guests today, Kaushikbhai, Dipa Ben, Harsha Ben, thank you all so much for sharing your personal journeys with us all, from which I've learnt a lot. So really appreciative of this. And of course, Macmillan representatives today, Hebe and Lourdes, thank you so much. And of course, Jasmine, thank you so much for your insights into the pharmacists and the support and help that they can provide too. I'm looking forward to future seminar and working with you on that one. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a wonderful evening. and see you all in the next seminar.
Okay, thank you, and
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Macmillan and Futureful. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for organizing.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll close the link here. And as mentioned, we will have a recording if you want to refer back to it afterwards, or if you want to share it with anybody you think might find it useful. And we'll also have the details of the slides and all the contact information on our website afterwards. We'll try and do it by tomorrow, but bear with us, give us a few hours, and we will try and get that information out. Thank you, everyone, and take care, everyone.